Well, thank you for coming today, and thank you for anybody who's watching. I'm just going to show you how to do some simple faux finishes. There are all sorts of faux finishes you can do. With our acrylic paints, we can imitate anything, but I'll just show you 4 today. We're going to do a Carrara marble, which is that simple white one that you see in all your bathrooms, and lapis lazuli, which is the blue, lovely blue jewellery that we use, and what else was it? A serpentine marble, which is an easy one that you can use for lots of different things, and you can do all sorts of colourways with it too, and some wood graining. There's all sorts of wood graining you can do. I'll show you a few. They're all easy, it's just knowing what to do. So I've got some samples here, you're welcome to have a look. This is what I'd call a Carrara marble, and obviously the lapis, and that's what I call serpentine marble. And then there's some sample boards back there, and I've got lots of books here that you can look at, the reference ones. A lot of them are European, and they tend to use oil paints. We're far more advanced here using the acrylics, the water-based, much safer products. I mean, you can die using some of those products, as some people have done. And about me, I've been earning a living since I was 16 as an artist. I was an advertising artist, commercial artist, agencies and retail and that. And then we opened the folk art studio in Manly, in Fairlight, and I've been doing that ever since. I went to the National Art School when I was 15, and I've had lessons all over the world with Jennifer Burnell in Sydney, with Kevin MacLeod in London, and Belinda Ballantyne, and Sonia Wulschläger in Switzerland, and lots in America. So I've tried them all. The best paints in the world are these ones right here, made in Sydney. I can guarantee that. I've used them all. So shall we start with our Carrara marble? This one is best done wet in wet, and I'm just going to use white as a background and a grey-green colour, just for simplicity's sake. You can use whatever you like, but it should be kept a bit subtle. And for most of our faux finishes, we use our faux finish and marbling gel. Right, so Carrara, we need to keep it soft, we need to do wet in wet. That means you have to work fast and keep it wet. So I slap on a fresh coat of whatever your background is. In this case, it's white. It doesn't have to be carefully done, just fairly thick and quick. And I usually give it a spray, just to make sure it stays wet. And we put diagonal sort of drifts of colour, of whatever colour you choose. And more white, because it softens it again. And our gel in between. So it's pretty sloppy, but that makes it easier to blend it all. Maybe a bit more in between. So the diagonals, and it's better if they're a bit random. Then we take our magic ingredient, which is dry cleaner's plastic. Much better than Glad wrap or anything that you'll get yourself in a terrible mess. And we lay it on, and we massage it in the direction of your drifts. If you go across your drifts, you're just evening out the colour all over the whole thing. So you still work within your drifts, and we massage it until the colours are all moved around and the gel's blended in, and we get a lovely marble. Now don't be afraid to really get yourself into it, and I can tell now that I've got too much colour, so what I'm going to do is put a bit more white in amongst the dark spots and just massage it a bit more. And then as I pull it off, sometimes it works first go, and that's great, just walk away and leave it. Other times you've got to play with it. So I drag it off. If you drag it a little bit, it looks a bit more realistic too. This is quite a big one, and the board is light, so it's moving. Usually you do it on wood or on the wall. Okay, so I've turned it in on itself, and you can just use this to blend it a bit more. Drag it as you blend. Now, if you think it's too strong here or there, you just take your clean sponge. Always wet your sponge and squeeze it out first. Never use a dry sponge. And I think this is too dark here and here, so I'll just lift it off a bit. You need to watch that you haven't got perfectly diagonal stripes. So you just walk back and forth on it and just soften. You can do this too much and end up just with one colour all over. So you just have to throw yourself into it, have a go, see how you like it. It's not too bad. That's it. Now you could do another colour if you want to, but just for simplicity's sake today. And at this stage, you'll watch the rubbish. You can take a feather. You can also use a stippling brush to do that if you don't have a sponge. Now with the feather, I like to draw it through some gel and colour, in this case white. I could do colour too. I'll do the white one first. And we drag it through. Obviously you wouldn't do it on the white areas, you wouldn't see it. So if you've got white on your feather, just draw it through a green section. Rock your feather back and forth. I'll do some green. Find if you're doing a piece, if you keep going top to bottom, you end up with a pattern. So that's why I turned it around then. And you can really wriggle this feather, and it looks a bit more convincing. And here and there you go across the ground. Down the beach. Nah, I've got lots of them there if you want one. Thank you. Now, sometimes you overdo this. So what you do is just take your sponge and soften. See, that line's a bit strong. Just take your sponge and soften it. You can keep going back and forth and back and forth. And sometimes I like to add a different sort of colour for veins, depending on the decor, you know, what you want to end up the thing looking like. In this case, I'll use some gold as a vein. can do too many veins too. You just have to get, after you've done a few of them, you get the feeling of when to stop. Okay, so that's about it. That one's a bit strong, I thought. Okay, how's that? How's it look? Right. You could also spatter it, depending on, that's not real Carrera then, but as a marble. So if I were doing it on a piece, I would probably do it more subtle than that, but I thought it would show up better here in a demonstration, doing it a bit bolder. Okay? No, I didn't. That's a sea sponge. That's a sea sponge. No, it's a good one. Okay, and a brush. Beg pardon? I would always put a varnish over it. Yeah.
I was just wondering whether it just actually pops the colours a little bit more as well.
Yes, it would, especially if you use a gloss. Depends on what it's going to be. I mean, here, this is satin. That one's a gloss. This is meant to look 200-300 years old, so it's got a coloured varnish on it. Okay, we do that. So, colour your varnish, put paint in it. Put paint in it. What do you want a coloured varnish for? Then you'd have to get every colour. Yeah. And oil varnish, you just put oil paint in it.
I'll put colour in this one.
Yeah.
That's the resin one, but Matisse made. I'll put colour in that.
Yeah.
That's even cooler that I'll put in.
Okay, so we'll do another sort of marble now. And for the sake of the class, I've called it serpentine. And I'm going to do that on black. Now for this, we use a synthetic sponge. A hard, stiff one like you get for mopping the floors, mop refill. And they usually come like this, right? It's that sort of shape, mop shape. Cut it in half, and then we break up the surface, right? It's like, and it's not so easy, it hurts. But you've got to pull out the bits and break it all off. So just hack it out at random, especially the edges, because otherwise you get a square edge around it, even though it's rough in the middle. So, but you don't want to get the soft ones, because as soon as you pick them up wet, they just collapse. You need these firm ones. Right, once again, because it's a sponge, you soak it and squeeze it out. For this, we need a plate, plastic plate. You don't have to work wet in wet on this. You can use any colours, but depending on your background, right? So because I've got a black background, I don't want transparent colours, because I'll just go black. So for this one, I'm using this Australian olive green, bit of antique gold, always a bit of your background one. In this case, that's black. And that might do me, I think. Oh no, metallic. Metallic's good because, as you can see here, it picks up the colour. Any colour that goes a bit transparent, it'll show through. So what we do with this is take each of your colours and swirl it around the plate 2 or 3 times. That's a bit darker than I thought. but I've got a light, unfortunately. And a little silver. Now, if your paint's very thick, you probably need to soften it up somewhere else and slap it on with a knife or a tube if you've got a squeezer thing. Now, as it is, it's too thick. We need the gel to go the rounds again. The gel gives a bit of transparency. It gives you good open time. It keeps the colours separated so that if you just did this with water, they'd all blend together. And it's totally transparent, so it doesn't change your colours. Okay, now put some water. And we want to just sort of merge them together a little bit like that. Okay. Then we take our sponge, our custom-made sponge, and we dip it in carefully. If you go all over like that, you'll end up with one colour. So you want to keep your colours separate. A bit khaki. Probably need a bit more of that brighter green. Anyway, we'll try it. And then we lay it down. Now, when you're doing this, you've got to mind that if you go straight along like that, you'll get a pattern. And if you turn it while it's on the board, you'll get a swivel. So remember to turn it in the air. Good thing about doing these marbling things is if you're not satisfied with it, you can keep going. Even after it's dried, you can come back and put a glaze over it or do another sponging or wash over it, whatever. And you can have it really coarse like some marble is, like terrazzo sort of marble. Or you can keep going and make it smooth. I'll leave one side coarse and I'll work on this one a bit more so you can see the difference. See that? Okay, then it's just a matter of veins again. So I would take, you can use any of these colours, just make sure you get a bit of gel on your feather. Think of a branch of a tree, you can do that. Okay. Now, if you decide when that's done, it's all too much, you didn't want it as dark and coarse as that, you just go back with your background colour on your sponge and that'll smooth it out. All right, no questions? No? Okay. Rolling along. Now, the next one was going to be the lapis. That's like that first marble, but I wanted it to look really antique-y, so I crackled underneath first, and then I antiqued over the top, so you've got like a really old sort of 18th century finish. You can have a look at them after. Now lapis. Yeah.
What colour did you use under that box?
White. white. That one's white underneath.
And then what green did you use?
Looks like spruce, but I don't think we have spruce anymore, do we?
No, we don't.
But a transparent green, a transparent green. This one I think was black.
Because that looks like so different from that there.
Oh, it's different colours, totally different colours, different piece. Yeah, show that. See how much time we've got later. Okay, see, lapis lazuli is the original colour that we used for our ultramarine. It was ground up lapis in the old days. So it comes in all sorts of graduations of the blue. So what if you're using all sorts of blues, if you exaggerate your ultramarine blue, it must look more like real lapis. Okay, and these colours, like your phthalo blue and green, terrible dyes, so you put your gloves on. Especially if you're wearing nail polish, because nail polish is acrylic and acrylic paint just sticks to it. All you can do is get the nail polish remover and take it off. Now I'm safe. Another plate. Now these are what these are. This little egg. Okay, so we take the ultramarine, put out a blob. Phthalo, diox purple. Phthalo blue. They're all very strong colours, so you don't need a lot. And phthalo green. And I like to use like a little bit of aqua, but if you just put white, mix your phthalo green, it's near enough to aqua. Like that. If you want real aqua, you just put a touch of the phthalo blue too. Yep. Or you can buy a tube of the new aqua colours, turquoise. Okay, now gel. Put gel with each colour, roughly 50-50. More gel means more transparent colour. More colour means it's stronger, more opaque. Now, once again, we do rough diagonal drifts, not stripes, drifts, right? And the way I've laid out these is the order you use them, so that the purple, which has red in it, is next to the warm blue. Then you've got the cool blue, and then the green, which is next to the cool blue. So it makes sense. When you see if you have a really good look with a magnifying glass at a piece of lapis, you'll see that it sort of makes sense. Now the purple is very strong. Remember, you want mostly ultramarine. So we'll just do the purple lightly. Don't get carried away with your purple. Then your ultra. Overlap so that they're sort of blending together. then the phthalo blue. I like to be a bit more subtle. It may not look like it here, but I find it's easier to build up the colour than to try and take it off. I'll just blend it through a bit more so it's not so stripy. And the green. Now, see the spaces, I would fill them in with more ultramarine. And blend them more together with the ultramarine. So with the gel, it helps to keep all the colours a little bit separate. So that you don't end up with one completely blended colour. By using the gel, it tends to keep the colours a little bit separate. So you can look at it and you say, oh yes, there's purple in there. Oh yes, there's green in there. Oh look, that's two blues. That makes sense? So then you can decide, oh, I like it more blue or a bit stripy, and you just keep going till it's how you like. When it's dark enough, strong enough, then you can put in little tiny bits of your aqua. Usually the green that's in lapis is a little bit dirty looking. It's not a beautiful green like this, but we want our piece to be beautiful, so. The best thing you can do when you're doing faux finishes and marbles and things like that is to get a piece of the actual thing and to really study it. Really, really look at it and analyse all the colours in it. I'm sure you've got some. You've been to India enough. Huh? Yeah, Afghanistan's the best. I think we have some here too. Now, a little tiny bit of this aqua, just here and there. Just adds a bit of interest. Yeah. So if you look, I mean, there are good bits of lapis that are beautiful blue all over, but usually you find they're varied mottled, yeah. And also in the good lapis, you see streaks of gold and spatters of gold. It's actually fool's gold, and it's not real gold. So you can do that with your feather. If you want that, you don't have to. You can do little bits of flecks. And I would soften them a bit. But the other thing I like to do with it is spatter it. Spatter the gold on. Toothbrush. Used to always do it like this, and I went to America and there was a workshop we were doing where we spattered, and as they call it, fly specking. I thought, oh, after all these years, I'm going to learn the right way to do it. So at the end of the class, we said, oh, go down to the back now, and we'll do our fly specking. Toothbrush was exactly what we've been doing all along. So once again, don't overdo it. Okay. Now with this is a placemat, so I would wait till it's dry, and then I would put some gold stripes around it, maybe a stencil of a fleur-de-lis or something in the middle. So that will end up a nice placemat. Okay. No questions? Once again, if when it's dry you think, oh, it's a bit pale, I'd like it a bit more deep than that, what you do is you just put a glaze over it, ultramarine or even purple or whatever, whichever one you like. Just mix it up with the water and paint. All right? Okay, now our last one for the day is wood graining. I just need to clean up this bit because the wood graining is brown, not blue and purple. It's a good idea to get these soaking as quickly as you can because, like I said, they're dyes in those colours. Add some clean water. You don't, the poor little sponges are getting hard to get hold of because they come from the Adriatic, living creatures and all the pollution over there. They're just not as available as they used to be, and they're expensive. Poor little animals that we use for painting.
You wouldn't use, the synthetic sponges.
They're much better.
The same.
No, much better. Okay, now with wood grain, big one?
I have a friend who came to me about
Yes.
because this sort of sellers.
Yes, if you're doing big areas, yeah, that's good. That's a good price. That's a good price. You can pay that for a little one like that. Now, with wood graining, we can do this sort of wood graining, which is done with a tool called a heart of wood tool, one of these. Or we can do it like we used to do in the old days, like this, by masking off areas and using different brushes. This one we learnt in Switzerland, and it was so tedious. We used to cut stencils and we'd put 1,000 thumbtacks around and move one piece at a time. These days we have frisket film. If you've not seen it before, it's this, you buy it from the art shop, right? Sticky. It looks like contact, but don't use contact because it'll rip your paint off and it'll stay sticky. And we just cut a stencil and work out the sequence that you need to use, and then you paint your wood grain with the brush like this. Let it dry, and then you can remove the frisk film. Like this. It's been on there too long. It's probably been there about 6 years, so it's glued itself to the. And this is also paper. This is that foam board you get from Office Works. You can see what I mean. Leaf off. Yeah. Try going to a good art shop, they'll have it. Yeah. a place down at Brookvale has them all. I buy my Frisk film down there. No, I don't know about them, but I know that the one at Brookvale has. And that's what happens when you use it like this. See?
Wow.
You just need to work out your sequence. Okay, I'll show you how to do some of that. And the Heart of Wood tool, this one, you can also use it with other colours, so it looks like your moire taffeta. Right, this is white pearl on the Victoria pink, I think it was, and that's silver on the blue. So you can give you different effects, look like silk or whatever. So it's just the same, using the same method. So this one, okay. And we use, if you want it to really look like wood, you use really wood colours. So I use all the different browns. Burnt sienna, burnt umber, raw sienna, raw umber. And then for the details like this, you just paint them in with your black and white. And that's meant to be like your ebony and ivory. Okay, so once again with this you need to work fairly fast. I've done I think it's terracotta, that colour, I'm not sure. And no, that's pimento. Brush. Make a soup with your gel. Once again, more gel will make it more subtle. More paint will make it more exaggerated. And I'll do a few different ones. So slap it onto your background, and you imitate different woods by using different colours, of course. And this fellow you pull towards yourself. So you start at the edge and you rock it gently, ever so gently. Right? You have to keep going. If you stop, you get that. If you go too quickly, you get that. Looks silly. So just do it gently. And if you're doing a piece, don't always start the same way. Turn your tool so that you don't get a continuous pattern. Don't need to what? Well, not on just something simple like this. And if you don't like it, you can quickly do it again. Right, so what I'm saying is that don't be frightened of it. And I'll do a different one. This is a finer one. It's the same thing, but it's finer. You've got to get even pressure over the whole of the tool. Otherwise you get a hollow bit. And you ever so slightly overlap each plank. Okay. Then I often give it a bit of a whack with a, what do you call these? It's got a proper name. Just breaks it up a little, and it gives you little flecks. It picks up the excess paint and puts the little flecks in the bare bits. I've forgotten the name of this thing. If you're doing a longer one than that, I would turn it around from time to time, so you're pulling it towards you, but you're not getting exactly the same pattern all the time. It's called a thrasher or something strange like that. Flogger. Could be a flogger. Yeah. but it's a nice gentle flogger. Okay, now if you don't have that tool, what we did was we got some cheapy brushes from the hardware store like this, put it on a breadboard and got a Chinese cleaver and chopped it off so it's short and stiff, and then we picked out bits so that when you use it, this is especially good for people in the country, you know, who can't just go and buy the tool, and it'll give you a striated design. So it's uneven. And if you wanted to do like a mahogany, you could do that sort of shape. And how you get that grain going like that. Now, if you use different colours, like I'll put a black in so you can see it. You wouldn't see the other colours if I did it right now. If I put a bit of black in, and a bit of that up the middle. If I do it like this, see that striated sort of effect. It's a bit more obvious with a different colour. Okay, how are we going for time? Okay, so if you want to use the other method, which is on the yellow I use, because you can see it. This is the way we've done this little box here too. So you need to draw a design on, and then you lay your frisk film over the top, and you cut all your lines. Then you work out the order in which to lift the bits off and paint them, because you can't really put them back on again if you take off the wrong one. Okay, but I'll just do it with some sticky tape. But I've got some scalpels and things if you want to have a go. Yeah, that's always with this too. Good with the rubber gloves. Not long enough. Okay. Now, you can also use a sponge if you want to do like the root, you know, the burr of the wood. You think of burr walnut, sort of, and you can get. Oh, it's got a pattern on it. Looks like a rose. Just use your sponge like that. A bit subtle because I've got so much gel in there. And then we can do some stripes. What did I do with that? This one. Here's a little mask out of some very rough sandpaper. And you put your very rough sandpaper on the other side, because it's like a whole lot of little points, you see, and it won't spludge your paint. And if you go back the other direction, should have overlapped it a bit more. I will overlap it a bit more. Don't want that little join there. Okay, now I'll take this one off. Where is it? The knife. So you can see how we've done the sides of the box here. That's how you do that. All right. And then you can use a stencil to put a little motif in it. Or you could do it like a stripe, like a grain. Okay. Cool bananas. So that's how you do it. By trying all the different ways, you can get all sorts of effects. Okay? How's that? So I've got all bits if you want to have a go.